All right, today we're going beyond just writing a prompt. We're going to pop the hood and get into the engine room of large language models. We're talking about those hidden settings that give you surgical control over everything your AI creates.
Have you ever had this happen? One minute your AI is a creative genius, and the next, it sounds like a broken record. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not random. It's actually a set of powerful controls that by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to use. These controls have a name, generation parameters. The best way to think about them is like a hidden control panel, just behind the chat window. They decide if an AI's response is going to be super factual and by the book or totally wild and creative. Getting a handle on these is what takes you from just being a user to being a director of your own AI.
Okay, first up, let's talk about the creativity dials. These are the settings that inject a bit of randomness and fresh ideas into the AI's output. They're basically what controls its creative spark.
So the most important creativity dial is called temperature, and you can think of it just like a thermostat for randomness. If you set a low temperature, you're forcing the AI to play it safe, to choose the most likely, most logical words. This is perfect for something like a factual summary or maybe drafting a legal doc. But if you crank that temperature way up, say for brainstorming new ideas, the AI starts taking risks. It'll use less common words, and that's what unlocks really creative storytelling and some pretty unexpected ideas.
Next, we've got a setting called Top P, which is sometimes called nucleus sampling. This thing creates a short list of the most likely next words. So instead of looking at every single word it knows, the AI just makes a smaller pool of top candidates that together reach a certain probability, let's say 90%. Then it only chooses from that list. This is great for stopping it from picking some bizarre, low probability word that would just derail the whole sentence.
Now, a similar but actually simpler idea is Top K. Instead of using a probability number, Top K just tells the AI, hey, only pick a word from a fixed number of the most likely options. For example, you could say, only choose from the top 50 candidates. It's just a more rigid way to focus the AI's word pool. So what's the real difference between these two? Well, it really just comes down to flexibility. Top K is dynamic. Its short list of words can actually grow or shrink depending on the context. If there's only one really obvious next word, that pool might just have that one option. Top K, on the other hand, is always fixed. If you set it to 50, it considers exactly 50 words, no more, no less.
All right, so we've dialed in the creativity, but let's be honest, a creative genius that can't finish a sentence or just keeps repeating itself isn't very helpful, right? That's where the consistency guardrails come in. They bring some much-needed order and structure to the output.
The most basic guardrail here is max tokens. It does exactly what it sounds like. It sets a hard limit on how long the AI's response can be. This is super important for preventing sentences from getting cut off mid-thought, but it's also crucial for controlling costs and how fast you get a response, since you're often paying by the token. Now, let's talk about one of the absolute most annoying things an AI can do: repetition. I mean, we've all seen responses like this, where the AI just gets stuck in a loop, saying the same thing over and over in slightly different ways. It sounds unnatural, and it's just not helpful.
Luckily, we have a whole set of tools called penalties to fix this. Repetition penalty discourages using the exact same words or phrases again. Frequency penalty lowers the chance of using a word the more it shows up. And then there's presence penalty, which discourages using any word that's already been said at all, which really pushes the AI to bring up new ideas.
Here's a really simple way to think about the difference between those last two. Frequency penalty is basically saying, hey, don't use the same word too often. It's all about moderation. Presence penalty is much more strict. It says, don't use a word you've already used, period. This is what really forces the AI to introduce new topics and concepts. And the result of applying these penalties? It's crystal clear. We go from that clunky, repetitive disaster to a clean, concise, and natural-sounding sentence. I mean, it's a huge improvement. We also have tools for just pure structure. A stop sequence is basically a kill switch. It's a specific word or phrase you define that tells the AI to stop generating text immediately. Then there's something called no repeat n-gram size. An n-gram is just a fancy term for a sequence of words, like the bottom line is. This setting prevents that specific sequence from ever showing up more than once, which is fantastic for killing those weird sentence loops. Finally, there's one simple little parameter that is absolutely critical if you need consistent, predictable results. I like to call it the replay button. This parameter is called the seed. It's just a number that kickstarts the AI's whole randomization process. Here's the magic.
If you use the same prompt, with the same settings, and the same seed, you will get the exact same output every single time. This is a total non-negotiable if you're doing any kind of serious testing, debugging, or scientific comparisons. So, we've gone over the dials for creativity, the guardrails for consistency, and the replay button for getting the same thing twice. Let's put it all together and see how these things really work in harmony. Think of this table as your ultimate cheat sheet. It shows you all the trade-offs at a single glance. As you can see, turning up values like temperature gives you more creativity and new ideas, while turning up the penalty values enforces more natural, non-repetitive language. It's all a balancing act, right? You're just tweaking these different controls to get exactly the results you want. You know, it all really boils down to 3 pillars. You steer creativity with temperature and sampling. You enforce predictability with penalties and stop sequences, and you guarantee reproducibility with the seed. If you can master those 3 things, you've mastered the output.
Once you really understand this control panel, your whole relationship with AI changes. You're no longer just a passenger, hoping you get a good result by chance. You're in the driver's seat, and you are intentionally crafting the style and the substance of the output you need.
This knowledge gives you an absolutely incredible amount of power to shape AI to your will, whether you're using it for analysis, for art, or for anything in between. So really, the only question left is this. Now that you know the rules, what are you going to create?